Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Caleb with devslopes.com and welcome to the Intro to MVC in iOS target topic. In this course, we're going to be talking about Model View Controller, which is a very common design pattern in software development, but especially in iOS. Now, there are plenty of other design patterns that currently exist and are currently being developed, but Model View Controller is one of the core tenets of object-oriented programming. Now, object-oriented programming has been around since the 70s. It's been around for a long time, and because of that, it is tested and true. It is very reliable and very common. Actually, it's commonplace in most software development workplaces. So, if you know object-oriented programming, if you know Model View Controller, you're going to be good to go for the most part. Now, that's not to say that Model View Controller is the best design pattern. It's not to say it's the only one that'll ever be around. I think it will eventually be replaced, but for the time being, it's an excellent design pattern because it helps us to logically separate very important parts of our application. So we're going to begin by just sort of talking about the overarching theory of Model View Controller and using some analogies and some examples to help you understand it. And then we're going to put it right into practice by building an iOS app using Model View and Controller as a design pattern. So to begin, we're going to start with the model component. Now, for the model, I want you to imagine a blueprint. Okay, so envision a blueprint in your mind. Think about the purpose of a blueprint. Think about what it does. It tells how to make something. It gives very important key information on how to build a certain device. As you can see in this blueprint, it includes lots of information. There's some notes about how the device should be built. There are some measurements. There are, size and shape. There might even be some description of how things should look on certain blueprints. Now, the model component is very much like a blueprint. It's going to basically tell how something should be built. Now, the model is going to store data. So we're going to use the model layer to basically create blueprints for our different data types. So for instance, if I wanted to create a watch like this, if I wanted to build a watch, I would say, all right, this watch needs to be rectangular in shape. It needs to have 2 buttons. It needs to have 2 slots for a strap. It needs to have a screen. It needs to have a speaker. It needs to have a heart rate sensor on the back. And of course, this is a very complex watch, but watchmaking in general is pretty complex. So I have then given instructions on how that watch should be built. Then later, a watchmaker could take that blueprint and they could actually follow those steps to build a watch that anyone could use. The model layer is very similar to a blueprint. Okay, keep that in your mind. Let's move on now to the view layer. In software development, the view layer basically tells how things should look. It's going to allow us to customize the appearance of various elements on the screen. It tells how it should look. Think of the view like the face of a watch. When you look at the watch face, there's a certain way it should look. You should be able to see the numbers that go around the watch so you know what hour it is. You should be able to see the watch hands, the hour hand and the minutes hand. You should be able to see all of that. Now, the watch looks beautiful. It looks amazing, but what good is it if the numbers don't change, if the hands don't move? That is where the controller layer comes into place. The controller, as you may expect, controls the view. And in many instances, it is actually called the view controller. Now, the controller is like a watchmaker. Think of it like that. The controller communicates with both the model and the view. And the view controller basically controls what the view does. It controls how it changes. And it takes the data from the model and it's going to pass it to the view and display the changing data. So imagine if I'm looking at my watch, I'm looking at the view of my watch. There is, maybe it's 3:20 p.m. If the minute were to increase to 3:21 p.m., the view controller would then say, hey, the model has changed, let's update the view. The view controller is like the watchmaker winding a clock. Okay, the watchmaker might look at the time and then adjust the clock accordingly or adjust the watch accordingly. So the model is like a blueprint, the view is like a watch face, and the controller is like a watchmaker who's communicating between the model, the data of our application, and the view, the watch face of our watch. And it can react to those changes in data and present it on the view. So the model, view, and controller work together as a team. They're very important in software development, and this is just basically kind of an overarching theory of how model, view, controller work together to create amazing applications. Now, I know that some of this might be a little bit ethereal, it's a little out there, but the analogy, I believe, holds true. The model is a blueprint. It tells us how we should construct a certain data type. The view is like a watch face. It customizes what we should be seeing. And the controller is like a watchmaker who constructs the data types and passes the data to the view. Okay, so we're going to move on now to the next video where we're going to go into a playground and we're going to mess around a bit with model, view, controller. And then by the end of this target topic, you will have built a small application that utilizes the principles of model, view, controller. Awesome job, guys. Let's head over to the next video and let's do that now.